What better way to start off but by explaining my letterbox review, right? So I gave Wicked 5 stars and I said, don't let them bring you down, Elfie. How ironic, how poetic as well, because obviously you have Defying Gravity, and I was like, don't let them bring you down because there's no way. And the fact of the matter is that throughout the whole film, it is them trying to bring her down. And then like crazy thing is that obviously they're like, oh, they want Elphaba at the forefront of doing these spells, and we're like, you guys are both frauds. Like, you know how, what was it, the Mrs. Marple or something, I think, what was Michelle Yu's character called? Like, that's so crazy. I was like, what do you guys mean you can't do spells? You guys run, like, you have huge establishments. Oh yeah, Madame Horrible. Bro, Madame Horrible. Do you understand? How crazy. Horrible, H, they were onto something. Because it's like, she's one of those people, they obviously appear to be extremely nice. She was trying to take Elphaba under her wing, all in the way to take her under her wing to, like, what's it, to gaslight her, basically. There's a lot of those people, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a lot of those people in general, people who say that they want to look after you, but they just want to control you. That's the main thing. And I think we should have got that, like, as in, should have, like, foreseen that anyway, because it's like, you know, you see someone with this great power and you're like, oh, I want to help you and I want you to do good instead of evil, blah, blah, blah. Knowing, like, exactly, knowing full well, actually, they did want her to do evil, actually. Do you know what I mean? That's the craziest thing. Knowing full well, they wanted her to do evil because obviously they wanted her to be able to be on their side in order to keep the animals in a sense of, like, what do you call it? Ownership? Slavery? Like, slavery, ownership, all of those things. Because obviously they didn't want the animals to have what do we call it? I was gonna say human rights, but animal rights. So they want to strip the animals of their animal rights and they want them to do like labor, like as in like how even the teacher, obviously the one that obviously Elphaba got on with, they wanted him to carry on working. Yeah, Dr. Dillerman, they want him to carry on working, and then like, but just like, you know what I mean? They just want. I don't even know. That whole thing was crazy. And you know what's just really interesting is because it's like, there's so many, I guess, you know, when you think of the Wicked Witch and then you think of, because I feel like there was a lot of what's it, like, I guess, what do you call it, odes maybe. Yeah, there was a lot of like stuff that they were doing which was kind of obviously hinting like at Wizard of Oz, and I was thinking like, how crazy is it that, you know, like we think that, oh yeah, she's a wicked witch, blah blah blah, but then, you know, in this wicked like story, in this telling, it's like, you know, we come to see that actually Elphaba's not actually all that bad. And to think like people like obviously kicked her up to be that, do you know what I mean? Like she never was that. And I think obviously that was the main thing of, I guess, Glinda's retelling, like how the film starts out. Glinda's retelling is like, oh, like a person's not originally evil, you know, no one's outright evil from the beginning you meet them, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's, yeah. And I guess we see that Elphaba was not like that at all. Like, Elphaba wanted to obviously help the animals. Elphaba was also like obviously an outcast. That's another thing. Like, it's those two things. Like, she was an outcast. She also wanted to help people. And I think because of her outcast ways, it's like she wanted to be a voice. And I think that's the thing. Like, that was probably the problem. And that's probably, again, why it's like the idea of wanting to control somebody like that, like Marvel wanting to do, because it's like, you know, you have somebody who's so powerful that they could ignite change. So the best thing to do is to turn them into the villain rather than yeah, turn them into the villain rather than in the hopes that they are able to do good. Like for them to be able to succeed. Crazy work. I mean, I think it's like you see that a lot, and then I think it's even like in Wizard of Oz, you see, oh yeah, the wizard's a fraud, and we're like, oh, he was saying he was this great wizard, like he could do magic, he could give people their wishes, but then he actually couldn't. You know who it makes me think of, even though, anyway, because it made me think of Wish, like the film Wish, and remember that has that film where it's Chris Pine, and it's like obviously they were like, oh, the Chris Pine guy, he was their king, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna give you your wishes, and like whatever you want, like I will do that for you, blah blah blah. He had all these wishes, but then really obviously he was just hoarding their wishes, and he was holding them, like obviously yeah, to not do anything with them. So it was the same thing, like obviously the people probably come to the Wizard of Oz and they were singing great songs about him, and it's like he couldn't even do anything. Like even when you think of Wizard of Oz, yeah, and you're like, Dorothy was like, Dorothy was not great where she was, and she was bro, she was singing about somewhere over the rainbow because she obviously wanted to be somewhere else. And she goes on her whole journey of going down the yellow brick road, and it's like she obviously comes to the yellow brick road, and it's like, oh, she wants to meet the wizard, and she's like, oh, and then they find out, oh yeah, the wizard like can't actually do anything, and he's actually a fake wizard. And we're like, dearie me. And because obviously that's even obviously what Jeff Goldblum's thing is. He was like, oh, that's what I have you for. And we were like, no. Obviously I was like, hold on, I didn't actually sign up for that. And it's like, crazy thing as well was that she wasn't even supposed to be going to that school. The only reason she ended up going there was because her father roped her in it to look after Nessa. But then, the thing is, I was like, Nessa actually seemed like she was fine. And I think she was going to be fine without Elphaba. Yeah, I think she was going to be fine without Elphaba. But then obviously Elphaba had to go there. And then, do you know what I mean? Everyone just hit Elphaba because she was green. And then I think, what was I saying? I was talking about how Elphaba became green. Obviously, they were always like, oh, I think in tellings of how Elphaba goes green, they talk about the fact that she's green because of her envy or whatever. But then I was like, oh, isn't she green because she's supposed to be, like I was saying, oh, is she the wizard's daughter? And like in the way that how in this film it's like you see we get the story of Elphaba, right? And we see that her father leaves there, and then her mother then has a dance with some other person. So it's like we can see that she has an affair, basically. And then it's like, obviously, yes, the affair brings Elphaba, right? And obviously Elphaba's green, and then obviously it's like the mother then has another one, and that's Nessa. And then it's like, again, obviously Nessa comes out disabled, so then it's like, again, they would see it as, oh, another child that didn't come out necessarily normal. But then it's like, I think obviously we know that with Elphaba's one, it's like the reason why she came out green is because I was like, the wizard made up the Emerald City, and Emerald City's green, and then I was like, oh, is that the reason why Elphaba came out green? That was just my thing, but I don't know. That's just like a theory. I don't know if that's even true, because obviously, like, I remember also, the other one, the other, like, kind of, what was it, Wizard of Oz, like, kind of telling, because you have Wizard of Oz, of course, the original, you have Wicked, obviously, the Broadway musical, which is obviously now this movie, and then you have, you even have, yes, you have the one that James Franco is in, right? And I forget what that kind of film is called, but, like, he's obviously, like, I don't even know what his character is in that, to be honest. But like, but it's like, even in that, they explain how Elphaba comes to be the Wicked Witch, or how in a way she turns green. Because I think they were saying even in that film, I guess they were saying she became green by the fact that she was so overcome with yeah, Oz the Great and powerful. So oh yeah, sorry, he's supposed to be I mean, is he supposed to be? Yes, sorry. He's supposed to be the wizard, basically. And then obviously Mila, I think it's Mila, yeah, it's pronounced Mila. Mila Kunis is supposed to be the Wicked Witch. And then obviously, like I was saying, yeah, she obviously it was about envy, and so that's why she ends up green. But this is what I mean. I don't feel like they told it even in exactly. They didn't explain it in the same way that that film did. Like obviously, like they don't really explain how Alpha becomes green. There's a whole thing that I feel like her being green actually is left to the audience also. That's my thing. I do feel like they do leave it up to us, and they leave it to our interpretation, which is obviously that's that's where I ended up thinking that yeah, she's green because the wizard likes green, and then I was like, isn't he really her true father? Do you know what I mean? And then also, which was another thing, was the fact that, like, I guess when Elphaba gets to Emerald City, the wizard's talking to her about how he wishes that he was a family man, and like he wishes that he had a daughter and all these things, and he's saying all of those things, and you were just wondering, like, oh, is he saying it because I don't know, not that he knew Elphaba was his daughter, but like I was just saying, like, is that what it was, even though it probably wasn't. Anyways, let's obviously move on to another thing, right? Obviously I was yes, I was talking about Alphaba's greenness, but we can move on. So I loved both of Cynthia and Ariana's, like, what's the word, performances. So I loved their take on these roles. I think to myself it was funny because Cynthia's obviously didn't stand out to me all that great. I mean, hold on, before you say anything. Like obviously I really enjoyed Cynthia's singing because Cynthia's amazing. And I think, remember what I was talking about before Wicked even came out was the fact that I was just saying that I remember I was even saying I was saying it in a previous podcast episode. I can't remember when, but I was saying about how they put people in roles who can actually sing. I was like, nobody wants to put in the work to train anymore, and nobody wants to put in the work to train, like, to be able to sing. It's the whole thing of why I think, remember when I was talking about how like Timothy got robbed for a complete unknown, because it's like he had to do so many things in order to become Bob. And I don't think people, actually, hold on, not people, Hollywood didn't look at it that way. And they didn't look at the fact that, you know what I mean, he really had to yeah, go out of his comfort zone, by the way. But that's what I'm saying. And then I think I was talking about how, Ariana can sing, Cynthia can sing. And I was like, that's what I mean. Like, granted, the film's going to be great because, you have two singers already, two people who can actually already sing great, But I think for me, I always think about, when I think about movies, I really think about the fact that, yes, you want the person who's in the film to, like, for them to come out and say they've actually done, like, proper hard graft, rather than not, like, because not rather, like, when we have this term, I guess, in cinema where we're like, roles get handed to specific actors just because they're that actor. I never like that. I think they use that term. Sometimes they wrote Timothy in that, though, actually, because I guess they say, oh, Timothy's a brand new actor, and I think they call him, I think it's nepotism, but I don't think he's not really a nepo baby necessarily. I don't think, because I don't really think that he has anybody who was really in this world. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but then we obviously know who the nepo babies are. Like, I meant Lily Rose Depp is obviously a nepo baby, but this is a whole other thing. Again, this is a whole other thing. But then I'm just like, yeah, I just mean, again, what I'm saying about Cynthia and not Ariana is that, it's like they got those roles, like, just given to them. right? And that's obviously, again, like I was saying, that's no diss on them because they were absolutely amazing. And like immediately when even Glinda came in, remember Ariana's like obviously first appearance in the film, it's like let us be glad. I was like, wow. And I always know that Ariana can hit a whistle note. Do you know what I mean? We all know that. She can hit a whistle note and she never misses a beat, by the way. So I was like, of course you're going to be great. And what I'm trying to say actually, now onto the point, is that Ariana stood out to me mostly in her role as Glinda than Cynthia did as Elphaba. Of course, like Cynthia Other was good as well because, of course, to play a character like Elphaba, as I was saying before about Elphaba being an outcast, that's super difficult. Like, of course, like I liked the way that she brought that, but it was like the fact of the matter is that I felt like Ariana really gave it her all, and I also felt like she obviously must have really what's the word? Maybe she worked closely also with I think it's Christine or Chris. Hold on a minute. I got her name wrong the other day because I was like Christine, like Kristen Stewart, and I was like, but that's not the right pronunciation. Yeah, I was like, that's actually not the. Yeah, I was like, it's not the right saying, but you guys know what I mean because I'm saying Chris. One moment, it's coming. Actually, it's not even there. Isn't it like it's weird? They have they have Indina in there basically, but they don't have Kristen in there. So yeah. And you know what's funny? Like Kristen and then you have Christine. But then I feel like there's like they're both spelt they're both spelt similar, bro. Like, you get it? Like, obviously, yeah. I guess Kristen and then Kristin. So Kristen, or is it Christine, bro? Why am I having a pronunciation lesson with you guys? That's so weird. Sorry, but I was just I was getting sidetracked because that's what I mean. I thought I was saying her name wrong the other day. But anyways, and also shout out to her, by the way. Anyway, shout out to Kristen. Because Kristen's also in one of my favorite films, which is Strange Magic. So yeah. And again, I don't know. I guess this is what the podcast is for. I'm always glazing films, but like Strange Magic makes me actually do feel on the same level as what Wicked felt like too. Just because like I guess even when I was watching the film, I was clapping after every single great song, and there were so many great songs. You know what I mean? Like I feel like my favorites were like obviously Dancing Through Life and like What Is This Feeling, and also bro, I always like to do the big three, guys. I always like to do the big three. Because I did big three in my K-pop Demon Hunters episode, so I always like the concept of big three because I think it's really important. But I'm just like, hold on, because yes, what is this feeling? What is this feeling? Dancing Through Life. Oh, and probably No One Mourns the Wicked. Exactly. That one was good. And you know what was crazy? Like, that was obviously the first scene as well. No One Mourns the Wicked was obviously the first scene. And it was like, you could see that, like, Glinda was empathetic. Yeah, she was empathetic because she was like, yes, this was my friend. So while she was even singing the song, you could see in the way she was singing it or even approaching it that at one point she really did like have like I guess like a great feeling towards Elphaba and was like her friend, like, do you know what I mean? She saw her as a friend, a companion. So it was like I saw that in there, and I was like, wow. But again, yeah, so again, on now still on the topic of Kristen, is that yes, Kristen has been in obviously Glee. She's obviously, yes, in the original Wicked. And then I like that obviously they brought her and Indina in this film, because I thought that was really, really a nice touch and really, really special, because it was like, of course you want to see them, because they're both such good singers. And again, like, okay, Indina and Cynthia's, and the thing of the matter is that it's never good to do comparisons, and I think that's also quite difficult in a subject matter or a concept like this one, because it's like, obviously, yes, when you're doing a remake, even though I wanted to say, like, that's what I mean, can we really class Wicked as a remake, seeing as it is an original Broadway musical? You know, it's like, do you think to yourself, oh yeah, is it a remake? Is it classed as a remake? Because, you know, one's on a stage and like one is actually a proper movie. I feel like maybe remake's the wrong term. I think it might be adaptation, maybe you could say. Although I don't know. But then the fact of the matter is, I also think it's not good to probably even say, oh, Indina's better, Cynthia's better. But of course, you know, that's what I mean. I'm saying that, but then that's obviously what I'm going to say. I really liked. I think Cynthia's Defying Gravity. Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know who does it better, actually, because even before Wicked came out, actually, I was watching a lot of those videos. I was watching a lot of the what do you call it? Oh, I was watching the different people who have sang Defying Gravity, I guess, from the very beginning. So I think in that video, it was basically like probably, I think they started off with Indina's, and then I think it was just a lot of other people who have done it. And then I don't know why, but like literally Cynthia's one does feel like I don't know. It's also like maybe I guess also because it's like it's now here and it's in recent years. It now feels like it belongs to Cynthia also, which is so strange. But I think that's just because the movie is new, and I think because she has such an exceptional voice, it's now we're like, oh my gosh, that's Cynthia's trademark. Do you know what I mean? But then I think even with a role like Wicked, you don't want her to also be boxed in, because she can literally have other roles, you know what I mean? And it's like exactly after Wicked, was it Wicked for Good? Like she's obviously gonna go on to do other things. So it's like it's never really good to, I guess, pick a role and pin that on an actor, even though I think it's very good to have what's it called, to have like favorites, like favorite performances of actors and actresses. But I'm saying I hope that like as in that Elphaba doesn't haunt her, so to speak. It's the same thing of the matter of like, I feel like, I don't know, like when I also think, I always have to talk about Timothy, right? I always think that like Timothy's had so many different roles, and it feels like like, whoa, we always say like it feels like he's not been in acting for long, but he actually really has, because obviously he's actually also a child actor as well. But it's also like in his recent years, it's like you think to yourself, probably he'll be boxed into a role like Paul Atreides for like years to come. Do you know what I mean? People will generally talk about him as Paul like for years. And it's just like you kind of, I think I don't know. I want to say, is it bad to do? But I just think that, like, you know, I think we should also talk about an actor and actresses like other works. You know, not to like just pinpoint one. I remember there was even an article I was writing. I think I was writing about I was writing about Zendaya's performances, bro. I have not finished it as well, which is so bad because I never seem to finish writing anything. But moving on, like I was writing about Zendaya's roles, and she's had so many good ones, you know. And then I think to myself, like maybe even now, you could say Zendaya's right now would probably be either it would either be probably something like MJ, or it would even be Tashi, probably, for example. And then I guess you could obviously say it could obviously also be, I forget her name in Dune, but you know what I mean, in that role too. But you could also say that those could be her trademarks, but it's not to say. And also, actually, one minor one, Marie as well. But it's also to say that like exactly she can have bigger ones. Oh, and Rue. Um, you see what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. Like when you just think about a person's work, it's just like you have to think about their versatility, and you can't think about one thing that they've been in, sorry, and let it just like encapsulate their whole filmography, basically. Because you know what we mean, he's like even Timothy speaks from boy, he's like to be one of the greats. He wants to keep excelling, but he doesn't want it to be a thing where like, do you know what I mean? Where people just say, oh, like, this is the best one, blah, 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 blah. Like, do you know what I mean? We're like, oh, yeah, this is your favorite, but you've also been in this, that, and that. Do you know what I mean? Better way to do that, that way. But then, okay, sorry, I wanted to talk about Strange Magic just because, obviously, it's one of my favorites. And obviously, in Strange Magic, Kristen is, she is the sugar plum fairy. And what I'm saying about Strange Magic and Wicked is that obviously they're both musicals, and so that's the main thread, right? It's the main common thread. And I'm just like, again, they both, I guess, filled me with like joy. And when I was watching Defying Gravity, like when it was reaching the ending scene, I was like, that's a scene that you know you will go back to, because I feel like with a lot of musicals there's always a one scene that you generally go back to, like or a track, sorry. I feel like you literally go back to that track all of the time. I think again back to again to reference K-pop Demon Hunters, you could say a track that you go back to is like Free, for instance, right? I'm just like, that is the climax of the two main characters, and they're both also like confessing their feelings for each other, and then that's what Defying Gravity feels like. And then I guess in Strange Magic, guys, Strange Magic, sorry, well, like number one, Strange Magic, laser hair, but Strange Magic one is probably Strange Magic, actually. Sorry, but no, like generally that is the song, probably, I feel like, in Strange Magic, because obviously it's a good one. Except obviously there's also like I think about Strange Magic is I do like that, and I know maybe sometimes people don't like musicals like that. You know, musicals that like, I guess, sing like songs, like, you know, but I mean they don't sing original songs. They sing songs that are already like out here. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes people don't like musicals like that. Like, I don't know, I guess people do have favorites, like Pitch Perfect, obviously, for instance. And Pitch Perfect is really great because, again, Pitch Perfect is, yes, another musical that has songs that we all know and love. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing with Strange Magic, because Strange Magic has a lot of the songs that we all know. Like, I think when I first watched Strange Magic, it was that song. What's it called? I said, hey, I'll be gone today, but I'll be back around the way. It seems like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. But I know One Thing, I Love You. But yeah, that's the one. And I don't know what's so special about that song. And then also in Strange Magic when they sing What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger, and it's basically a mashup. Because yes, it's What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger slash Come On Marianne. And I'm sorry, that song goes crazy. I feel like What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger and Come On Marianne is on the same level as Jonathan Bailey's Dancing Through Life. It's got to be. Because honestly, and oh, I think I remember on my TikTok account I put my favorite reviews on them, and I guess there was one that stood out to me where people were saying that Jonathan Bailey, it was like Jonathan Bailey was playing a straight character, which yeah, he was playing Pharaoh, but it was like he was also giving gay like so much. And you know, and exactly, they know that I saw them do that because it was like he was dancing a lot with the guys and he was touching the guys' faces, and I was like, yeah, I see what you guys are doing. And it's like, yes, it's because Jonathan Bailey is gay. And I was like, right. You guys think I don't know, but I know. And you know what's crazy is like, how can Jonathan Bailey, like, you know, he's such a good actor, because that's what I mean. How can he play such a yearning character like Anthony Bridgerton? I said that's crazy. Um, you know what I mean? Well, like, you convinced me that you were straight, but you were not. But this is the whole thing anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because actors play characters that, you know what I mean, that they are not all of the time. It's very interesting with like watching the K-drama Our Movie and realizing that like how interesting would it be if an actor or actress played a role that they were actually, you know what I mean? That's so scary. Like to play somebody, like, because obviously okay, I'm talking about Our Movie a little bit, okay, but it's, hey, it's always good to reference, okay, but like that the fact of like being sick and you're playing a sick character in a movie. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, imagine if actors or actresses actually had to act like that, and then it wouldn't really be acting. Do you know what I mean? And they call it method acting, but then do you know what I mean? It's, I feel like obviously that's not even classed as method acting, because it's like you actually are playing that character. You know what I mean? Like when we think of method acting anyways, we think of like the fact that somebody has to like really like, I don't know, like when okay, the one main thing when I think of method acting is someone like, I think like Christian Bale, and I remember that Christian Bale really had to slim down, I think, for The Machinist, if I'm not wrong. I know films, you know what I mean? This is what I mean. I hate sounding like that, but like, of course, because I have this podcast, I'm like, I have to be knowledgeable about these things. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's The Machinist, and obviously, like, he slimmed down for The Machinist and got really skinny, and that's method acting, because obviously, it's like, I think, you know, the easiest way, I guess, for in some roles, people will just immediately what's it called, morph you to look like the character. Do you know what I mean? So that there's not much work that you really have to put in. Or something like, I guess, for another example, is when people said Austin Butler was sounding like Elvis for a long time, but he obviously had, what was it? He had vocal training, so it was like he put on the Elvis, or well, he had to sound like Elvis, or he had a coach make him sound like Elvis, and then after he left the film, it stayed with him for a really, really long time. So it's that same thing. That's what we think of when we think of method acting, but we don't think of, oh my gosh, imagine if a character was actually playing a role which they actually were, you know? And this is what I'm saying again, back to Jonathan Bailey. He's playing like straight characters, but in real life, he's in fact gay. And then I'm like, I always think, I don't know, it's interesting, because I think what I was even probably thinking with, you know, the whole Squid Game thing, and I was thinking, oh, should I guess they said at the time, remember, that they couldn't find any transgender Korean actors or actresses, and that was all well and fine, but it was like, wouldn't you want, I think for me, and I just think, when you think about if you're a part of that said community, you want to see yourself in an actual person, which, hey, not saying that you can't, because that's what I mean. Just because he's a guy and he's playing a transgender character, I would think that a lot of people who are transgender probably would have seen themselves in Hanju, by the way. I do think that's obviously a thing, but I just obviously think, wouldn't it be better, and wouldn't it also be very authentic if it was actually who they're supposed to be? And I just mean, but then, it can't always be that way, I guess. That's obviously the main point. I just think the thing of our movie really stood out to me because I think that's really interesting. But I know that, film doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be real. Like, you can play, and that's what's so fun, I guess, for people doing acting, because they're playing characters they are not, and then they have an extension of themselves. Even though I think something I saw today was Chad Michael Murray talking about the fact that when you get assigned with a label like heartthrob, it's like it follows you around, and like you come out of the characters, but they still stay with you, and like you're still stuck in them, because obviously everywhere you go, you're like, oh, they know me as a heartthrob. And then I think, what I'm referencing right now also is Jamie Lang's podcast, because Chad Michael Murray was on there, like I think either today or the other day, and he was obviously just talking about how he looked up to other heartthrobs, but then he was also like, he also didn't feel like a heartthrob as well, and I think he was saying he didn't like his smile, and I was obviously shocked, because it's like when actors and like actresses come up, like say these things, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're actually like, I don't know, it feels weird. You're like, oh, they're actually real people. But it's like, because obviously I sometimes think with celebrities anyways, they all get like, well, we do, because we're the people looking from the outside. We just think, oh, we don't know what these people's real lives are like, and then we just think to ourselves, oh, Chad McMurray says he doesn't like his smile, and we're like, oh, but you are a heartthrob, and you have been for like years. And I feel like, bro, the thing is, when I saw that podcast clip, I was like, and you still are as well, in whatever age that you are right now, you're still killing it. We said, by the way, and it's just very interesting that he reflected on it like that. I also need to watch the whole thing, but I was just like, it's interesting to hear that from him, but then I do think, obviously, there's always the other angle that, too much fame can be a bad thing, because obviously, like, because it would be too much for any average person. That's the main thing. I feel like all in that in that past few minutes I went on a whirl round, but obviously I was just talking about the fact of like how well also that Jonathan Bailey played this role again. And obviously I was I was talking about in regards to him being Anthony, and as I was saying, it was just two good roles. And I already touched on, I touched on Ariana probably working close with Christian. That's how I ended up talking about Strange Magic. And I was saying that obviously I felt like the whole time I was watching Wicked, I felt like I was watching Kristen. That was the craziest thing. Like, I meant how crazy that Ariana got that down pat, do you know what I mean? I think another thing, I think I probably wrote it somewhere, I think I was saying that maybe would it have been interesting for Ariana to also just create her own spin, instead of maybe look at Kristen's version. And that's what I looked at it as. But that was just me probably like, that was me probably playing like what's it called? I want to say devil's advocate, but then also no. But it's just like I was just trying to see it from another perspective, because obviously I was obviously sold on like how she was able to like, I mean, we're looking at Ariana, but we're looking also at Kristen. Like I loved that, but then I was like, what would it have been like if Ariana just kind of went a different way? And then it's just, I guess this is what I'm saying again about when you're playing a role that somebody has already played. I think it's like, sure, you bring your own spin to it, but it's like you obviously also then maybe it's like, yeah, because you think of like terms like, I guess, imposter syndrome, which we all feel, and then it's like, do you probably feel like if you're playing a role that someone has played, do you feel like the copycat version? And maybe, bro, that would probably be a really interesting question to ask her. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, in interviews, it would probably be really interesting to ask Ariana how she felt playing a role such as this after seeing Christine's. But then again, that question probably it's very outdated, very, I don't know, very outdated, very cliche, probably. But I guess for me, if I was a journalist, I probably would ask that. And I think maybe, maybe I would be advised not to ask that question, but I probably would ask it anyway. Knowing me, I probably would. I'd be like, oh, I want to know, so I would probably ask. Even though that's what I mean. I think when you are like set with roles like that, that is the question that you're bound to get. It's just one of those things. You're just like, oh, do you feel like you copied this person, blah blah blah? And I'm just like, and then I think actually that's why the word copy, I think, always feels too strong. It's more like take inspiration from, and I think obviously that's what Ariana did. And exactly, she did it like absolutely well. And the fact of the matter is that even in the idea of her playing the good witch, you feel like you get lost on who really the good person actually is. And then the fact of the matter is that, Elphaba was the one being like, oh yeah, I want to save the animals. And then Glinda was like, oh, just apologize, just lie down and take it, and don't really rise to it. You know what I mean? That was what her perspective of it was. And I think you could see that anyway from the way that when she immediately got there. I think you could see that from when how Glinda immediately got there and was wanting to like already be in Marable's in in her good graces and be Teacher's pet. You could immediately see that she was somebody who was just wanted to follow the, I don't know, follow the herd, follow whatever feels right, you know what I mean? And I guess that's probably why she came into the role of good witch, because it's like, she could just easily play that. Even though, this is the craziest thing, I thought, she agreed with Elphaba, but hey, we can't really say, because obviously it's more like she was like, yeah, apologize, and if you apologize, then you know what I mean, you get everything you want or whatever. Or I think she saw it like, oh yeah, Elphaba, don't you, because I think they were saying that what Elphaba wanted was to not be green anymore, but she realized she wasn't really bothered about it afterwards. And I think obviously she just chose to be the martyr. Not that that's a bad thing anyways, because generally if I was in her shoes, I would have chose that too. Do you know what I mean? I'm just gonna decide when, the fact of the matter is, exactly, she chose it so quickly, but Marble was the one who was not in her corner and told her she wasn't going to make it anywhere. Showed her she wasn't going to make it anywhere. She wasn't going to be a sorceress. And it was like, oh, okay. And then it's like, oh, then the thing happens. And it's like, Marble hugs her. And she's like, oh, yippee, Marble likes me. And we're like, well, she was not rooting for you. And she literally told you. You know what I mean? She told you weren't going to make it. Yet, afterwards, when it's like, you know what I mean, her plan A failed, and then she chose you for plan B. And you were like, oh, okay then. I'll go with this because why not? Because then that means I get to play the good guy and I don't have to be the bad guy because, you know what I mean? That role's already filled up. So, hooray. You know, it's crazy. And you know, Glinda was very much giving to me, like she was giving Rachel Berry. And I was like, what is it with people who are like, do you know what I mean? I don't know, at the front and at the popular way that, you know, they don't want to have outlandish views and they don't want to do anything out of the norm. Even though, you know, she does go out of the norm just what? Remember when they're down at the Oz or whatever, what was it called? Ozda, sorry, actually. Obviously, I was listening to the soundtrack the other day, so I was like, yeah, Oz does, right? So when they were down there, obviously she does go against the grain when she does that dance with Elphaba. That was obviously the only time. But that's why that scene in particular makes you wonder, like, why is it that she didn't want to even, like, you know what I mean? Like, she didn't want to go along with Elphaba's whole entire plan because it was like, yeah, it looked like you didn't care about people's views just in that instance, but then you obviously do, you know? And this is the thing, Elphaba doesn't care about that because she's obviously always had those issues. She's always had people be against her for whatever reason, just because, you know, just because she's different. We were like, cool, that's fine. And so it was like, she was just like, oh, cool. And then obviously that's why she was like, yeah, I'm the one you want. It's me. And then it's like, oh, I hope you're happy, my friend, because you both go on separate directions. And I felt, yeah, I felt bad. I just meant, of course I knew that was going to happen because we all know how the original Wicked story goes, but I was still just like, oh, that's a shame because obviously they can't be friends and they have to have this whole rivalry thing of good witch, bad witch. And we're like, bye. Actually, there is none of that. Do you know what I mean? There's just a ground. I remember, yeah, I was watching it with my mom. My mom was like, oh, really, Glinda really did shape Elphaba to fall into the witch narrative. And I was like, yeah, she did. Because she gave her the hat. She gave her the cape. It was like, you're really pushing this so hard just so that, like, you can, like, I don't know, you can move out of the way, basically, or just make way, yeah, make way for you. Do you know what I mean? And obviously we could see she was envious of Elphaba, like, obviously when Maribel wanted to look after her, you could see that. So this is the whole thing. So this is what I mean. Like, they say, oh, Elphaba's green because of envy, but it's like, aren't you all a bit envious? Yes. So what are you talking about? You're not green, are you? But anyway, that's what I mean. Even though Glinda comes across like, oh yeah, nobody's better than me, blah, 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 blah. She does all of that. She said that a few times, isn't it, in the film? But it's like, you're also envious because it's like, you wanted Marvel to choose you. She didn't choose you. And do you know what I mean? And then you kind of just fell into the reason to not like Elphaba. Just like everybody else. We were like, oh, you're just like everyone else. But I'm really excited for Wicked for Good, and I'm really interested, as to where the story will go. I want to even check now before I go. I've seen the trailer a few times, but I just want to see. So, now demonized as the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba lives in exile in the Ozian forest, while Glinda resides at the palace in Emerald City, reveling in the perks of fame and popularity. As an angry mob rises against the Wicked Witch, she needs to reunite with Glinda to transform herself. And all it was for good. Right. But so why is it called Wicked for Good, though? That's my thing. Because it's like, yeah, Elphaba doesn't want to be wicked. And she never wanted to be. again, like we said, they pushed that thing under her. They pushed that whole thing of her being wicked, even though that was not even that was not what was happening. You know what I mean? This is what I mean. They're just like, oh, because you're outspoken. It's giving, you know what it made me think? It's giving Harry Potter, right? They're just like, oh, Harry Potter is an orphan. He says all these crazy things like Voldemort's back, and it's like, he actually is back, by the way. And it's like, you guys don't want to listen, but he's back though, you know? And I'm just like, you guys need somebody to hate. That's the whole thing. That's all you want. You just need a villain, basically, you know? That's what's crazy. But, and I'm saying that's what they were trying to do, Harry Potter anyway. Do you know what I mean? They kept acting like Harry was the bad guy. But then Harry, again, you know, when I always think about this thing, but Harry has main character syndrome, which a lot of characters have in general. And I was like, it's fine. You're the main character. I get it. But it's like, when they're like insufferably the main character, is so annoying. Because you just obviously realize that they think the world revolves around them. But like, no. like no, because even I guess remember when it was Deathly Hallows and that girl was like, oh, take Harry, like he's the one that they want. We were all like, oh, I mean, what she said was not bad. Like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't bad. She was the only person to say it, but like, do you know what I mean? Voldemort just said he was gonna kill, like, what did he say, actually? I think in the film. Okay, no, he said he was going to kill, like, their families. It was like, didn't you just hear what he just said? So that means let's hand him over. You know? Why not? So it's just crazy. I think that's probably also how, maybe that's how Glinda felt, I guess, actually, with Elphaba. She's like, oh, you know what I mean? They're calling Alphabet evil. Why didn't I just give her to them? Do you know what I mean? Why not? Why not? It'll make it easier for me. So I think, you know, I think I'm going to watch the trailer again, actually, also, because I just want to see it again, just in order to, like, prepare myself. And also because I just want to get, I want to get a gist for the story. Because obviously I do feel like this telling of Wicked, in this film, was again, like I said, a lot of like to do with a lot of the other storytellings in the past, and I feel like obviously Wicked for Good might be, you know, it might be different to that. Do you know what I mean? So I think they're probably going on a whole different, they're going on a whole different twist, I'm sure. Even though, actually, are they? Because, what's this? Oh, interesting. It's just something that said that Wicked for Good will feature more Dorothy. So does that mean that they're going to have a Dorothy in Wicked for Good? Because that's really interesting. Like I said, I meant in this first one, like part one, they obviously had that like reference to Wizard of Oz for when for when they were picking the colour of the road, right? And then we were like, oh yeah, Yellow Brick Road. We were like, yeah, Yellow Brick Road. And then it was like, yes, there was something like that. So that I guess that was them, what's the word? Yeah, foreshadowing. So that's them setting that up there. So I think it's interesting. That means they will probably be using a lot of Wizard of Oz again. But the whole idea of what it says, I guess, where it says that they will... what's it called? That they will reunite together to transform Oz. So yeah, I just wonder how are they going to like do that, and will they also be friends? Yeah, exactly. In this film, I feel like a lot of the time, I suppose, the story of Good Witch and the Wicked Witch is that, you know, they were at, what's it called? They were at each other's throats, I meant, basically. Because that's obviously, even what Wicked of, like, when I think of the Wizard of Oz, I think about the fact, remember, where it's like, when the Wicked Witch and Glinda meet again, like, yeah, they they don't have a good like meaning again. So it was like, I wonder if, I wonder if like Glinda and Elphaba's friendship will actually last. That's the main thing. Yeah, I'm all, bro, I'm all talked out. What were your thoughts on Wicked, and also what are you hoping for in Wicked for good? And also, what was your favorites in Wicked, like as in your favorite songs, and what did you also like about it as well? Thank you for listening, and see you in the next one.